What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Gray Matters podcast. I'm your host, Josh Perry.
And I'm Jackie Lauricella.
The also host of the Gray Matters podcast.
Yeah, I'm the host.
We had a conversation last time about this because you said I'm the other host. I said, you're not the other host, you're just the host.
Wait. So does it sound different? We also have our friend Josh Morse here just to
back help us on the Gray Matters podcast.
Yeah, to help us with the conversation. He keeps coming back. I don't understand.
Bringing the drip.
If I say I'm the other host, Jackie Lauricella, or if I say I'm also your host, Jackie Lauricella, does one sound like negative comparatively to the other?
Or does one sound more positive than the other?
Well, yeah, that would be the other option, other than if one sounds more
negatively. No, it could be baseline or negative. It could be baseline or worse. We're giving a scale of baseline worse, baseline better.
I feel like this should have been figured out before we started recording.
Well, that's
we're asking your opinion because there was a discussion.
The first one was definitely better, in my opinion.
Which one was that? I'm Josh Perry, and
I'm your other host, Jackie Lauricella, or I'm also your host, Jackie Lauricella.
Second one, yeah.
Damn it.
Self-awareness is the topic of today's episode. And on that note, the Joshes stick together.
Yeah, of course they do.
But we're wicked smart. We got big brains.
Big brains on Brad.
Speaking of that, remember we talked about in your episode, sharing your story about how you used to be called Dumb Josh?
Yeah.
Who's dumb now, right? A lot of people.
What, he's smart because he agrees with you? Is that what you're implying?
No, it's a story we're referencing.
Oh, okay.
Just how he was called Dumb Josh, and now he's just,
Should that be the name of your episode? Who's dumb now?
Or should we name it Dumb Josh?
Man.
Or Not So Dumb Anymore, Josh.
Yeah, less dumb Josh.
Who's the dummy now?
Not So Dumb Josh.
Who's the dummy now is good.
Undumb Josh.
All right. So today's episode topic is self-awareness and how it's important to life and how it's important to living successfully. Dumb Josh, what do you think of when you hear
Don't call him Dumb Josh.
Self-awareness?
Unless it's a joke.
It was. Why would I seriously call him
address
Dumb
him
Josh?
Dumb
I just got
Josh.
messed up. I'm staying here.
He's our guest.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
What's your question, though? Sorry.
What do you think of when you hear self-awareness, and how does it apply to you in your life?
Self-awareness, at least for me, I think of being consciously aware and cognitively aware of your surroundings. Mm-hmm. So kind of the way that you talk, how you react, your body posture, even to what you're eating and whatnot. So what that means to me is I'm always trying to enhance my cognitive abilities to be better as a person with everything I'm doing, whether that's memory or focus or just what I'm doing every day towards whatever I'm trying to achieve.
I like that. I like that definition of self-awareness. What about you, Josh Perry? Dumber Josh?
Damn, bro.
Yeah, so to me, it's similar. Self-awareness to me is just really being aware of just who you are and what you do and what you're good at, what you're not so good at, just what you like, what you don't like, and all these different just areas of being a conscious human being. Self-awareness to me is just being understanding of all that, being conscious of that. And then when you said that earlier, that's a lot of the area I'm studying right now is quantum biomechanics is what Dr. Joe refers to it as. You know, there's so many different aspects of this, but being conscious of the fact that you're a conscious being, this metacognition thing that's happening, that's interesting to think about too. So self-awareness to me, that's a whole other thing, but self-awareness to me is just really being conscious to you as an individual, the world, and what's going on.
Yeah, knowing what you're good at, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can put self-awareness in any box you want if you're talking about skills and being self-aware if you're good or not at that skill, or if you're talking about health, being self-aware of what your self-talk is, your thoughts, your actions, your choices in food consumption. Really, it could be in any box. We could have a whole conversation about that one box that self-awareness fits into, whether that's business, health, relationships, creativity, education, all these things. So to me, it's just overall macro. Self-awareness is being aware of self, being conscious, which is the whole point of meditation. That's what Dr. Joe, the reading I was doing today, was talking about. Like,
we're gonna eventually go one podcast episode where he doesn't mention Dr. Joe Dispenza.
It's hard. It's hard not to mention keto or
he's real wrapped up in it right now. He is. He really.
Well,
is.
I have been for years, and just now.
You can mention consciousness without talking about Dr. Joe.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
It is possible, but
yeah.
It's just. But yeah, no, self-awareness, just being aware of self, just being just conscious of your own being.
Yeah.
And really using that to audit the other areas of your life and how you want to move forward with those. Like Josh said, like he's all about, one of the first things he talked about when he reached out to me about working with me for keto was like, I know my brain's health is wealth, so like how can I optimize that? That's self-aware that like, hey, I need to learn more and I need to be implementing more of new strategies.
Yeah. When I first hear self-awareness, I instantly think of like a term that my grandmother used to use, and it was, have you guys ever heard of the word couth? Like having couth?
No.
Like,
yeah, no.
Sounds almost like a person's last name that I know.
Oh, no. But it's like my grandmother has none because she just like cannot read a room. Like she will come in to like a very tense situation and she will say whatever she wants and she doesn't care. It doesn't like matter to her. So it's like having couth is like understanding how you're presenting yourself to the world is like affecting the situations around you.
Social awareness?
Yeah. So it's another word for social awareness. It's
Yeah.
also called like having feel. Like that was a big thing.
Having feel.
When I worked for UCF baseball, that was the term they would use. Like if someone was awkward or said something, it was like, bro, you have no feel, like whatsoever. Like, and they're just like,
oh, that makes
not
sense.
reading
Yeah.
the situation like the way they're supposed to. So when I think of self-awareness, that's what I think of, like how your choices and your actions and the shit that you're saying is interacting with the world around you and how it's influencing other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a right or wrong, and I think all three of us sharing, like,
yep.
it all.
That's the whole point of the podcast.
It all is similar, though, like a similar way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's a gray area.
Part of it is a trip in the sense that, like, even when I started, like, becoming more self-aware and, like, doing a lot of self-development, because that's really what self-awareness is, especially when you really start focusing on it, is you think you hit these like peaks, right? You figured it out, and all of a sudden, like, what you don't know, and then all of a sudden you run into some new information. There's another advanced level of self-awareness in general, right?
Yeah.
So that's another trip in itself, is just catching those moments, those level, I call them level transitionings, but like you transition to a new level or something you've never ran into before.
You raise your consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's super important in the business world. If you do any kind of
Oh yeah,
interaction,
especially owning a business, whether it's a small, medium, or large, just owning a business,
right? Or just
knowing what you're good at. And
exactly,
not.
like
Yeah.
being aware
How to
of what you're
delegate.
good at, how you interact with the world around you. It's like, oh, like if you're passionate about something but you're just like not great at it, like stop trying to become an NBA player and like find another area within the NBA to like capitalize
It doesn't mean
on.
you don't
like,
have that passion for that area of your life. If it's a positive one, it just means like audit your perspectives and your goals and
Yeah.
where you're putting your time and focus and energy.
Well, and part of that is mastery, right? So, like, if you're trying to be a master at something and you know you're not good at one part of that skill or that business or whatever you're trying to do, well, outsource it, right? Just like Richard Branson, he's like,
Yeah.
I hire people that are masters at what they do, and I focus only at what I'm good at.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I've kind of implemented within my life, is I know where I'm good at, and I hire people out or have other members or partners that delegate the rest of those areas.
Yeah.
That's what I just started doing with my business, and it's very helpful.
Yeah.
It's a lot of help. But yeah, I think that's too another topic actually of self-awareness, is like once you become self-aware, I wouldn't say things become easy, but things become easier. And if you're stressed out trying to do something in your business, let's say, or in your personal life, you delegate to someone who knows that, like you just said, masters that area, whether that's to help you with your business or you hired a coach to do whatever you wanted help with in terms of coaching. And so it allows you to make a connection to someone else to create a system, a team. And I think that's really cool, because that's like, when you get into health, holistic health, one of the biggest factors is community. And with business, if you think of it as more than just a product, a machine to make money, you look at it as like an ecosystem, and like it just, it helps in that area too.
But to run off what you're saying, which is interesting, is you said like it gets easier in a sense, right? Once you kind of delegate and outsource. But also what's interesting is that when you're growing and you say you delegate and outsource, well, you got to add more people to that, and your responsibilities become even greater because of the people you're adding, right? So in a sense, it kind of gets easier, but it also gets harder. You get tested at new levels you've never experienced before.
Absolutely.
Well, that's just the basic fundamentals of growth.
Yeah.
That one part gets easier, but then that part that got easier now got really complex, and then it starts over.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's the whole important thing of self-awareness is understanding like perspective. Like, I wasn't ever really aware of perspective or consciousness versus subconscious. Like, it took me a good while to understand the difference in depth, and then how my life, kind of functioned off of that. So self-awareness taught me to like start doing those types of things, and like understanding growth requires these certain elements like you just described, like business. It kind of like applies in the same manner.
Well, you say you didn't really notice it for a while, and we did something very similar in the BMX world, right? Like, our lives are consumed around it. And if I'm guessing right, that's probably when it was going on for you, right? Like, you're all day, every day, you're just riding BMX. So we only had so much time to think about other things outside of BMX while you're not doing BMX. And that time that you weren't doing BMX, at least I noticed for me, is when I was like partying and wasting time
and talking about BMX, because the people partying with also ride BMX.
Yeah, everyone's just talking about BMX all the time. You're
editing videos or like watching videos or
one thing I noticed for me that helped enhance my self-awareness is I kind of started taking away from like just doing one thing, and like, okay, well, I'm not doing this right now, let me just study some other stuff, or let me just kind of dabble in something else. And then before you know, you run into all this new information that you've never experienced before, which makes you obviously more self-aware.
And I think it's just, so where I was going with it is, I think there's something that triggers that change. What was it for you? And I want to ask your perspective on this too, because you had some pretty big shifts of self-awareness. But like, so like for you transitioning from BMX to business, and you transitioning from fighting to school, I guess it was school either way, but like redirecting to athletic training.
Yeah.
That took self-awareness, but there was like this conflict, like this obstacle that presented itself. Like, you were going and doing what you wanted, all of us were, and then something switched that it was like, oh, I need to overcome this and do something new.
Yeah.
Which led to the self-awareness of like wanting to learn more about like, all these things.
I think situations like that too, that's where the line between like self-awareness and self-doubt can get really, really blurry, because I was having this big like inner turmoil with myself. Like, should I, like, is it worth it? Can I keep fighting? Can I actually make the world team? Like, can I make like the Olympic team? Like, if I were to just go all in and give this 100%, like, am I really good enough to do that? Because like people are telling me that I am, but also I don't feel like so it was like this really weird debate, but like I knew I was really good at athletic training, and I knew I was passionate about both. So it was like it was this weird decision where it was like, okay, I can be self-aware and go with something that I know that I'm good at, that I'll flourish at, or am I being like over analytically like self-aware by like doubting my own talent and my own ability? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
it gets really murky. Like, it really can.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
So what was it that, I don't know if we talked about this, but what was the piece that pushed you one way or the other? Like, because you're thinking like fighting, USA team, school, athletic training, career. what piece was it that pushed you towards athletic training?
Oh, I just think that there was a lot of other stress in my life at the time, like that, like committed, like very serious relationship I was dating this guy for like 5.5 years, and I was living with him, and he also did martial arts and taekwondo and competed and stuff, and then I was getting stressed out with like school and my job and everything like that, and I think I just felt very overwhelmed, and I think only having to focus on school felt very refreshing to me as well, because at that
you were
time
doing school and fighting, or school and athletic training, which
I was working 30 to 35 hours a week. I was a full-time student taking 4 to 5 classes, and I was training at least 6 hours 6 days a week. So I don't even understand where I had the time that I did, like anywhere from 4 to 6 hours 6 days a week. And
did it feel, when you were putting that much time into 3 different things, did it feel like you were putting that much time in? Or were you so in the zone that you almost didn't even notice it?
Flow state.
No, I was in it. Like, I was in it and I was focused. But, like, honestly, like, school kept feeling like it was getting in the way. Like, it was like, my classes are a struggle, and, like, I have to study after all this. And, like, I really want to go to Germany, but I can't because I've got a final on the day where it is. Like, I wasn't worried about, like, partying and, like, oh, I'm missing out or this or that. It was, like, school is taking me away from fighting. And, like, that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I'm burning my candle at both ends. And I would just like to be able to focus on one thing. But having to... Yes. Josh is now pointing at his wall where I wrote the phrase, if you try to catch 2 rabbits, you won't catch either one. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was doing at that time.
Whiteboard walls. People don't think you just write on the walls of my office.
You never know.
Whiteboard wallpaper.
Yes. But yeah, I had to really dig deep and like do some self-awareness.
What's the advice you'd give to someone in your shoes then today?
Go with, like, it sounds corny, but like go with your gut, like your intuition, like whatever like makes you feel like stoked and happy to think about, like go with that. Because of course I would be sad giving up either one, like 100%. I would be sad.
Did you go with your gut, because you saying going with your gut, but then you overanalyzed your thoughts and the other things were complicating your emotions?
No, I made the right choice. Because Taekwondo, the sport ended up going in like a different direction. Like they changed rules and equipment and fighting. So like the style that I fought like literally did not work for like the next 3 or 4 years until some new rule changes have emerged. And I'm like, oh, I could actually like be successful in this. But it like essentially catered to like very tall, very long, like front leg fighters for that like didn't hit very hard and stuff like that. Yeah, just because the way the rules of fighting were and things like that. So I feel like I really made the right decision. Plus my time at UCF was fantastic. Like it was what I needed at that point in my life, and it also got me away from that relationship, and it exposed me to like new people and new friends. So like I feel really good about myself.
I was trying to figure out a way to positively ask that question, so I'm glad you addressed it, because I wasn't going to, because I didn't know how to. But going back to that moment before anything this way or this way happened, when you're in the crossroads of this conflict of like passion here, passion there, and you took one route or the other, you like imagine before you knew either way what would happen.
Yeah.
What's the advice in that moment that you'd give to someone in those shoes today, as far as like maybe they overanalyzed and like they're like, oh, this is a better route, safe, or maybe they didn't. Maybe their just intuition was like, no, it's probably better to go this way because it's safe. You know, if like that's what their conditioning and their environment was telling them to feel, versus what do they really want?
Yeah. That
gut feeling of safety and stress and fear, or
something that I always saw that was really interesting, because at that, I don't know, I will analyze the situation and I will think about it, but when it comes to making the actual decision, I'm very much an intuitive decision maker. Like I'll think about it for 2 weeks, like, oh, maybe I should do this, that seems smart, that seems safe, but when it comes down to it, like actually making the decision, I might go the complete opposite direction of what I felt was smart or safe, just because it feels better, it feels right. But not everybody is in tune to that or has practice doing that. And I think that's just because like having to learn to make, like, same with BMX, like being an athlete, I think having to learn to make decisions very impulsively and very on the fly. You learn how to kind of rely on muscle memory, and you go what feels right. And you know, you're not thinking like, oh, if you case, you're not thinking like, oh, I have to like bend my knees and like absorb this shock. Like it just happens.
Subconscious.
Yeah. So it's like,
see how that works?
That's great. Thank you, Josh. Yeah. So, something I saw on a show called Parks and Rec actually is
a show called Parks and Rec. Like people don't know what Parks and Rec is.
Okay, so I saw it on Parks and Rec, and they suggested that, okay, this person pretended like they made one decision one day, and for like a full 24 hours they acted like they made decision A, and then for the next 24 hours they behaved as if they made decision B, and saw how they felt on either day and saw what their mood was like, and then made a decision based on that.
I've noticed, at least for me, making decisions sooner than later usually has worked better for me than like overthinking it, right? Because what you can do too is if you're better off just making a decision, and I call it like make an executive decision, like just do something and just
it's a common phrase.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
Josh did not invent that phrase.
Absolutely not.
Trademark.
But like, if you're gonna think too long about something, you start going in different directions than like just doing and figuring it out
you get
from experience.
Fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you make that up, bro?
And that, kids, is self-awareness.
Yeah.
Knowing what you have to do.
I guess I should be more specific with my question. If that person was like, I want to fight, but this is more logical, what advice would you give them?
Fight.
Yeah. I thought that was just me, so I was just curious, because like obviously we all know, or maybe we don't if we're just listening now, but like I dropped out of high school and have been doing my thing.
Yeah, logical isn't better. That's what I mean.
Like, not everyone is going to be like, oh yeah, I'll drop out of high school, and their parents will support them, which makes it easier.
Right.
And then I financially and whatever moves, and that's where Josh and I met. We met before then. We actually moved kind of together, is what I should say. We relook, because you were in New Hampshire and I was in Mass at the time.
Yeah.
But what was the obstacle for you that presented itself when you were like, maybe I should think of something different? There had to have been something, like you either got sick of it, you wanted more. We know a little bit. I know a little bit of your story.
Sure.
So like, I'm not trying to like get at things, but like,
yeah.
What was it that was like, oh, maybe I should look into something else? And then we know the story. For those who haven't listened back, I don't know how many episodes now. Josh's seriously, Josh's full story.
It's just funny that it sounded
talking.
Aggressive. Like for those of you.
Yeah, no, because that's not what this is about.
Like,
this is about self-awareness. So but what was it that led you to just thinking outside of BMX? Because that's what you said earlier, consumed us.
So at least for me, at one point, I know for you, it was BMX. Like this, I live and breathe it. And for me, I knew at one point I was like, yeah, I'm never gonna stop this. I'm just gonna like keep riding and I'm just figure it out.
That changes.
I know. So it got to this point where I was working at Buffalo Wild Wings, and this is before I started flipping phones. So I was like not making much money. Like it was a very awful job. And I mean, outside of like the women being there, but but anyways, everything else sucked. So anyways,
the wings were alright.
Yeah,
exactly. No, they're not.
Anyways,
that's what I remember.
So I remember being in this like lost state of mind where I was like, what do I do next? Like, what's the answer? And I call myself like more of a realistic thinker. I kind of try to look for the exact answers, stuff that's been proven or some sort. So. Not saying I'm not religious, but I more believe in energy than anything. So my buddy Craig, Craig Mass, and he's like,
shout out to Craig Mass.
What up, dude?
Funny Flair is back when, like 2000,
he was like
2009?
He was the first one doing basically
2010, and then Keith McElhaney took it to the vert, but yeah, Craig Mass.
But anyways, I remember like Craig and I would hang out all the time. We'd have these conversations, and we're both kind of like trying to figure out that answer, right? Like what is it? What's going on? And I remember like one day he's like, "Yo, I found this movie. You gotta watch it." And it sounds so corny, but like now that I look back, it's like it was a major turning point for me.
What was the movie?
It was the Law of Attraction, like The Secret.
I just started it for the first time like a couple weeks ago on Netflix, and I didn't finish it for whatever reason.
I've never seen it.
But I hear it referenced all the time. But I mean, I read Think and Grow Rich, and like the secret, I feel like, is like thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, consciousness.
Thinking about what you want.
But I basically what ended up happening was we both watched. I was like, dude, this totally makes sense. Da, da, da.
What year was that you guys watched it? Roughly,
a long time ago.
Because he told me to watch Food Matters after my brain surgery in 2010. We were really
full of documentaries.
Yeah, it was because of Craig.
It might have been
honestly, sorry to cut you off, but like Craig is probably the catalyst of like my whole journey into nutrition and like
sounds like his too.
Yeah, that's what
you guys
what's
should send him a
Well,
goddamn bouquet
but what was interesting
of
with
bacon roses
Craig was
or
always talking
something.
about. He's like, all right, what's energy? Always has been, can never be destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, always will be.
We used to talk about this every night.
What is
like,
God?
All the time, yeah.
Always has been, is everything, just like energy, can't be destroyed, can't be created, always will be. And he was like,
Craig on the podcast.
Yeah, no, Craig's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, but like, so
No, you're good.
so Craig got you to watch the documentary.
Yeah, and that,
The
you
Secret.
asked what year it was. I can't remember.
It was probably like 2010 to 12.
9, 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't 12. I was already gone, I believe.
Really? Okay, so it's probably
I think it
2010
was like 9
or 11.
Yeah.
Because 2009, that's when I was still at the apartments down the road from you and
Okay,
Robbie.
so that might have been
and
10.
I'd, like we'd all be hanging out, and I'd fall asleep in your couch, wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and ride my bike back home,
was
and then we'd go to
ridiculous.
work.
Yeah.
Josh has no self-awareness when it comes to staying on track.
No, I have this in my mind. This is the point of the podcast, is reminiscing about old
Isn't
times
the
of us
point?
as being like young kids.
Man, we did. You reminded me last time I was here. You're like, man, we used to work at doing landscape. I'm like, oh my
Shout
god.
out to Creeches.
That was horrible.
Yeah, we'd get up at
Manual labor.
we'd get up and meet up at like 6:30 and drive 45 minutes just to drive back with his trucks and stuff back to the town we lived in and work, and then drive back out to get our cars.
I was
and then
very
back home.
self-aware that is not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
To be fair, we were putting in work though. We were
Strong
hustling.
feels.
We were hustling BMX, and we were working.
Creatures.
And
yeah.
then we'd like get other random weird part-time jobs here and there.
Yeah.
Didn't you work at Chili's once?
No.
Who was that? Someone.
Was that Kyle that worked there?
I think so, because you also had Robbie and Colin staying with you
Yeah.
from PA and New Jersey,
Yeah.
the younger riders.
Or Delaware.
Delaware. Robbie was
New
from
Jersey,
Delaware.
yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Robbie Downward. I haven't talked to him in a minute. But yeah, so Craig shows you the secret,
Yeah.
and then that's when you have this epiphany that you're like, maybe I should do something different. Maybe that's thought.
Well,
and maybe that's get out of BMX.
You know, and what's interesting is like, you know how Jackie was talking about, going with your gut.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like so new to really just being exposed to all this new information. You don't know what the hell your gut even feels like at this point because you're so stimulated.
And back then, all of us were smoking a lot of weed and watching a lot of documentaries and Cat Williams.
Just a lot of debauchery.
The same Cat
tomfoolery.
Williams stand-up every night.
Oh, yeah.
And we would quote it the whole time.
Shout out to Cat Williams. I
So
don't know you, bro, but you're the man.
guys, the shout outs. I can't.
But yeah.
But
Go with your
anyways,
gut.
yeah.
How
so,
do you learn what your gut feels like, though? Like, how did you figure that out? Because I have my theory.
So
But-
21, 22 back then,
I think
too.
my-
yeah.
the way that I figured it out was by just like doing certain feelings that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna start flipping these phones. I'm just gonna somehow figure it out and just kind of going
that kind of
after.
came out of necessity, though, right?
Yeah, but it was a gut feeling too, like in the sense that like it was in my mind and it was like I should try this, right? Like I wonder if I can get more, you know?
Yeah.
And then one part was like moving to Austin, Texas. You know, I was in North Carolina the whole time, and I didn't know anybody in Austin. I literally didn't even drive. Like, I sold everything I had. I shipped 2 boxes out there. I took a Greyhound, which took me like literally 3 days to get there. But I only had so much money, right? And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna just go to Austin. I had this feeling in my mind. I wrote it all down in a book that I still have today. And I was like, I'm gonna move to Austin. I'm gonna get the business going. If I don't get the business going, then I'm gonna get a job at Verizon. And I'll become the #1 rep at Verizon. But like, I didn't know how it was gonna really pan out or like anything. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And over time, you have these big transitions in life with whatever you're trying to accomplish or goals that you're chasing. And you kind of catch these feelings when you're like, okay, this makes more sense. Let me just go with that feeling and just try it. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's very tough. Like, it's not easy, especially if you're chasing big goals.
That's
but
so important. Like, your gut is not always like a comfortable, safe thing. Like it can like literally plunge you into some shit. But you have to like, there's a difference between ego and intuition. You know what I mean?
I always say, get really good at being uncomfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to really excel and test yourself. Because when you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, you've now cut the emotion side out. Yeah. And that's another critical factor in like making big decisions or gut decisions.
Especially business decisions. Yeah. You've got to be able to like remove some of that emotional attachment.
And it's hard. It's honestly, it's like a craft. It's an art.
Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. You mentioned ego versus intuition, because what comes to mind for me is like ego equaling stress, safety. Your ego's trying to protect you. Right. Intuition, like just truth. Like just like go this way.
And like sometimes like your ego is leading you into the right decision too. So that's such a hard thing to like wrap your mind around. But if just rewinding to my situation, my ego is like, you're not going to make Olympic team. Like, why would you stop school just to like do that full time?
Yeah, I was trying to keep
saying
you
you
safe.
would tell yourself that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's what I would like feel about myself.
Trying to protect you
but
from
like
the unknown of that event. And
I still went with my gut, even though my ego was like, it was telling me bad things, like, you know, and I'm like kind of listening to myself have opinions about both things. I was like, do I really want to like move away from here? Do I want to leave everything that I know? Do I want to step away? And like, you know, what if you can't handle like being on like truly on your own and, you know, stuff like that. So it's like your ego tells you all sorts of stuff, but it like definitely it even nudged me in the right direction.
Your ego may trigger a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah, I feel like just taking the time to learn how to decipher between ego and intuition will do nothing but raise your self-awareness. Like you have to be able to listen and you have to know what you want, like long-term goals. Yeah. And I feel like then trusting your gut is simple.
Kerwin was talking about when you get stressed, your body releases cortisol. When you have chronic high levels of cortisol, or like instantly when you have cortisol dump, your IQ drops dramatically. And then thinking about the deeper thought and like understanding of like getting addicted to emotions based on the chemicals they release, and then like these whole cycles we get looped into if we don't change. That's really,
it's a paradox.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is when you have those negative thoughts and feelings, right?
Yeah.
And I remember for me, like there'd be people around me trying to suppress my like who I am as an image, right? They'd say dumb Josh, or they say you can't do this, or like I remember like people were telling me, oh, that's like so dumb, you're doing this phone thing, like blah blah blah, right?
Like where's that gonna get you?
Yeah, exactly. Like you should be going to college and this, that, and the other, and I never went to college, right?
Projecting onto you.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed is I realized at a very young age that those negative tones, that energy that's coming at me, and me dwelling over that energy did nothing good for me.
No.
So I've always been really good at like, well, I'm just gonna send it and go for it, and like if you ain't about it, you don't need to be around it, right? So for me, it's always been like just go, and like never really dwelling over any negative thoughts or feelings.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna ask how you actually like got through those feelings in your head, telling you, oh, you know, like suppressing feelings really is what it is, right? So I was gonna ask you, like,
and I don't know if I even like learned to at the moment. It was just like, you know what, this feels right. So I might have even been a little bit motivated by that fear, like by those insecurities, but it was like an 80-20. You know what I mean? It was like, no, this feels right. I'm gonna go with this, even though like it was like, well, you know, I might not be able to do that. Like I doubted myself, and that was probably like my biggest like Achilles heel as an athlete is like self-doubt.
You doubted yourself in your decision? That's why
I doubted myself and my abilities as an athlete. I think that was my biggest downfall as an athlete.
While you're an athlete?
Yes. I didn't mean like during my decision.
Yeah, that's pretty common. I mean, that's why there's sports psychologists, but like I remember no, like seriously, because like most people don't think that. At least my perspective, or our perspective of BMX, action sports, like typical common mainstream sports attributes, I guess you could say, aren't available in action sports for the majority, and that are starting to become now.
Right.
But like it's like this, like why would I need to talk to a psychiatrist? Like I was trying to like go do backflips, but like that's so important. And so I forget what you were saying before that, but you were going to go somewhere with that. But like that, no, like it was about your decision and like that aspect.
Yeah.
Influencing it.
Right.
And because it's different, like while you're an athlete and you have these doubts because you're comparing yourself to the competition.
Right.
So that makes sense. But like, that's what I was asking. Was it during it or like during and transitioning? Because transitioning, that's where I was getting at earlier. Like, was it like self-doubt, limiting beliefs that added to your intuition? Because either way, you're passionate and there was like positivity either way. So it wasn't like, oh, this one's gonna hurt for sure and this one's not. I mean, if you get kicked in the face and, you know, obviously like that.
Yep,
but like it still felt good either way.
Yeah.
What, like that's back to my original question. What made you go that way?
If I was gonna write a pros and cons list at the time, one of the cons wouldn't have been, I don't think I could actually make a U.S. like team, because I'd made U.S. team. You know, like I knew that if I like pushed myself, I could do whatever as long as I like worked my ass off. Like I knew that. So it was more like a side thought. Like it wasn't an actual factor that...
It was a side thought that you may not...
That I might not be talented enough if I like stopped school and I stopped doing that, and then my parents would be super pissed because college was always like on the table. Like it was never not an option. Yeah. So if I stopped going to school, it was very
like,
possible that like... Huh?
Like on their behalf?
Yeah. It was like very possible.
Was it like that for you and your family?
No.
Same.
Yeah.
That's what like
they didn't really like.
My family was just like, do whatever you want.
Yeah. My mom signed me out of high school, so it's like I'm always like, oh, like their parents expected you
they're totally to
go to college.
Yeah. Well, there was like a possibility. My parents didn't really financially support me, but they like, well, they did. So like a car that they had purchased, I used that. Like I paid for the gas and stuff, but they like made the car payments and like did that, and like so. But, like, I was all, like, working full-time and paying a lot of my travel expenses and things like that for these things. So it was, like, they were helping. And that would stop if I stopped going to school.
Would you say that...
That was a weird idea as well.
Would you say that making that, you know, when you were making that decision, the transition, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say it helped because you were doing all that stuff at once, that you already had a little bit of experience in kind of all of it? So when you were transitioning, you kind of had an idea of like what you're getting yourself into?
Yeah, I wasn't completely like...
go to athletic training?
No, I wasn't like completely stepping off into the unknown, because technically just to apply to school to be an athletic trainer, you have to have
time in, right?
Yeah, you have to have over 80 hours of volunteer work with an athletic trainer. So like UCF required 100 hours. Like other schools that I applied to required like 75 or whatever, but UCF, where I went, required 100 hours. Mm-hmm. And I got that all over the place. So I already knew that I was good at this. I had been volunteering with Trish at Bare Essentials since I was like 17, I think was my first event that I ever volunteered with her. And I was just like, ice bag bitch. Like, you know, just like, hey, get a Band-Aid. Like, grab that ice bag. Like, wrap this to people.
Like, water boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, that was my job, but like for the medical team. So I already knew that this was something that I loved to do. So it was like, do I go with what I love or do I go with what I also love?
I've noticed with like my situation, at least, that there's always like two different scenarios. Like you're kind of like dabbling in these things, and you make one like decision, like go 100% in one, or it's like you're literally going into the unknown.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I feel like making the decision going in the unknown is really, really tough.
Did you feel like you went, like, I'm assuming, like did you feel like you went into the unknown away from something you loved in BMX, and then therefore you didn't know if you loved this path or not, but like you knew it was necessary deep down?
Yeah, totally. It was it was all new, a whole new world, you know, all new terrain, you know. It was very interesting, and there was a lot of tough times too, but I remember at one point where literally overnight I was like, I think I'm done riding BMX. Like it went from me loving it to overnight not caring. And I think because I started trying new things, it opened up a whole new world that I had no idea about.
Was it a one and done with that? Like, this cold turkey one day not riding, or was it like you tried to get back into it a little bit after?
I haven't touched the bike, and man, since I stopped.
How long ago was that?
Probably 8 years, if I had to guess.
Really?
8 plus years.
8 years since you've done a tail whip, or let alone a flare or front flip?
Oh, yeah, anything. Yeah.
See, that's what's crazy, because I feel like I'm in that same transition, but like I just like went 4 months without riding, or like 3.5 months without riding. No injury, just I was like, let me do some other shit for a little bit, or like more of what I've been doing for a little bit. and then just recently started riding again, like 2 days a week here and there. And then just now, it's like tomorrow, it's like 2 weeks since I've ridden. But like, it's like more and more almost like, do I want to ride or for me, a lot of it is like, is it my environment? Like who's with me riding, where I'm riding, music, like all these different things. But
that part that you just talked about, the environment, like the BMX world environment, when I moved to Austin, I have a lot of good friends out there, but my feeling, my whole vibe completely was like, womp, like it was done, like immediately, within like the first month.
Yeah, stepping out of a place like Greenville, North Carolina, where all it is either like college or BMX, and then going to a place like Austin, Texas, where there's like life and culture and things outside of that, that's also a big change.
It was also just, I don't want to say how do I describe this without sounding like shitting on people? It was just the scene that I was in, right?
Yeah.
Like I just wasn't about the scene.
It was just like the mindset of the people you were hanging around with.
Yeah.
You were challenging that.
It's time for something new.
And I think partially too, because like obviously I'm not blaming it on them by any means, but also I moved there for a specific goal, and then I was doing this BMX thing, and I was like, I'm not really into this because I'm trying to do this.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really like killed it for me too. Is
well, you don't go to Greenville unless we're going for ECU, BMX, or to work something related to the hospital.
Yeah.
That like there was no other reason why you would want to live there.
Yeah. So imagine working at Buffalo Wild Wings. Didn't feel good.
I've heard some stories about Buffalo Wild Wings, actually.
Well, there were some fun moments.
Fun times. We could make a whole nother podcast on Buffalo Wild Wings times. Yeah. But, I mean, I think overall, self-awareness is essential for growth.
Oh, it's everything.
And like overall, it is. It's everything.
The more you learn, the more you're like, I don't know shit, and I was an asshole yesterday, or a month ago, or a year ago.
What's funny is I wonder how many people are listening to this podcast and going, "These people talking about self-awareness? Are you kidding me? Like they're like the least self-aware people ever." Because who knows if we even have self-awareness? Who's to say? Who really checks you on that?
Do you think being focused on self-awareness and like, I don't think anyone ever masters self-awareness. I think that's like what Kerwin talks about, like the ego, like you're like, oh, I get you, and then all of a sudden you're like, and the ego starts laughing at you, thinking like, oh yeah, you got me, and it's like, oh shit,
yeah,
I do it again. But like, do you think it makes you more empathetic to people, but more like blunt as well, as far as like, yeah, dude, like I feel for you, that pain you're in, but at the same time you're more like, no fucking excuses, like, if you're able, do it. Like, don't, oh, it's not hard. Like, you know, like, do you feel like you have that?
I don't know. I feel like your self-awareness has really increased, like, since I first met you. So I think it comes with maturity as well.
Yeah, but
because I know mine has as well, and I know I need a lot of work and self-awareness. Like, I'm really good at, like, making decisions about my own life and being decisive and, like, knowing what I want and things like that. But my self-awareness starts to struggle with relationships with other people. Like, I can be very blunt, and I can like not pay attention to my tone, or I can like, I wear like my emotions on my sleeve, and like usually those emotions are like sleepy, hungry, tired, like like happy, like it's like I live through the seven dwarves, and like that just like shows through my voice. And you know, sometimes when I'm dealing with an athlete and I'm just like tired and annoyed, but it has nothing to do with them, I don't need to act like I'm tired and annoyed, you know what I mean? But I do, like, and then they like walk away feeling like, did I do something? Should I not have come in at that time? And like, there was no reason for that person to feel like that, because I had no problem with them coming in and asking for my help. So like, that's where my self-awareness issues.
I totally can relate to what you're saying too, because I'm very blunt and I'm very straightforward, and I just, you know, I have so much going on in my mind, and if someone asks me a question, I'm going to just give them the real stuff, right? And someone was telling me recently, they're like, you know, you should really like maybe just watch how you say things or present stuff or change your tone. And it's like, well, I can't custom cater the way that I say something to every single person, make them and coddle them and make them feel good about themselves, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed is like, it's better to be real and just give the real stuff than like trying to present something in a different fashion or whatever
Yeah.
because you want to make someone else feel better. Like,
Yeah.
you can't control their emotions, their feelings. You can't control any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're self-aware enough and they have
Right.
enough emotional stamina,
Yeah.
then they're going to be able to handle the way that you hit them with it, whether it's good, bad, whatever.
I have found that, like, if I am even, like, more authentic, like, just crank it up. Like, if I'm, like, tired and hungry and I'm, like, dealing with someone and I'm, like, obviously tired and hungry, I tell them, hey, this has nothing to do with you. I'm so happy to help you, but I'm tired and hungry, and I get a little irritated when that happens. So here we go. Like, this is what's happening. And, like, it's funny, and then, like, they laugh with me, and then it becomes, like, a distraction, so I don't feel
See, like, I
as
don't even
tired
really
anymore.
give the warning.
I think I feel like if you did, it would strike people differently. You know what I mean? So even those people that, and that's like self-awareness in a different sense. That's like more of what I was talking about, like how you like relate to the world around you, like having that feel. Like if you tell someone like, hey, like, I'm just gonna tell you how it is, and they're like, oh, okay, and then like all of a sudden that responsibility is on them rather than like, oh, I don't want to work with that guy, he's kind of a dick. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, that's just Josh, he just like says his own thing, you know. So it like opens up different opportunities to work with different kinds of people that usually might not care for a blunt person, but they're just so obvious and forthcoming about it. Like, you can't be mad after they do what they say they're gonna do.
Well, that warning technique is something that's used in sales too. So like in the sales world, you know, say you're going to make a very low offer, or like it's something they're not going to like, right?
Yeah.
Then I'll say, hey, you know, I ran my numbers, and like I don't want to like offend you, and like I just feel awful, and I'm almost nervous to even tell you my number.
Yeah.
Right? I'm almost nervous, and you know, add a little bit of, you know.
But is that real? Are you almost nervous?
Absolutely not.
Well,
But
that's not what I'm saying.
but I used to be. Like,
Yeah.
People don't act off of logic. They act off of emotion.
Oh yeah.
Especially in sales, this is something
Yeah.
that I've been starting to learn more and more in depth on, as well as just learning about the subconscious and like that whole topic I'm into right now. But yeah, people definitely operate off of emotion internally as a human being in the way they perceive information and share it.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is the Goodalls got me super interested in like learning about like autism and like autistic people, and like thinking like, oh, am I like
People
on
with
this?
autism.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Person first.
So
Autism second.
I've now been thinking over the years like, oh, like I wonder if I'm on the autism spectrum somewhere, just because of like what they've been sharing about with their daughter and how they share different things.
Yeah.
And it gets me thinking for like, but I don't know, that's what people talk about, the people that know a lot more about autism than any one of us, but like how far of a spectrum it is, and it really just comes down to how your brain is functioning.
Yeah.
And then that controls how Josh and I receive some of the shit that we say to each other jokingly.
I think you just have extreme ADHD, and it allows your brain to like
we know
multitask
that.
a lot more, and like it's not even a thought that passes your brain. You're not even overly concerned with how people are saying things. You're just worried about like the actual words that they're saying, because your brain is thinking of 20 different things at once. So like, why would you even have the time or energy to waste on like thinking about what they mean
That's
by
where my
things?
self-awareness came in. An example was this morning, and a little argument we had about something with a question
Josh
I
is
had.
so self-aware, guys.
And so
so
I've been
good at
trying to
being
focus
self-aware.
more on how I communicate with people, is where I was going with that.
Yeah, good for you.
I wasn't done.
Yeah, okay.
This is Jackie's Gray Matters podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think self-awareness is, I think it's consciousness, however you want to focus on,
Yeah.
self or out, like, because
I'm
if you
actually-
get real into it, then it's like there is no self, there is no me, there is no you. Like, that's a whole another rabbit hole we could talk about someday. But like, when you start thinking deep down about that, and how, you know, we're just energy.
Yeah.
That's what meditation is,
totally.
trying to remove the ego, move you from ego, from self, from all this, and just like remove you into this time and space. That's why I like Dr. Joe's meditations.
Oh my gosh, there it is again.
35, 40 minutes until I mention him again. But no, it's just what's really interesting, and it's just, that's why I think consciousness, just being aware of what the fuck is happening, I think is one of the most important things, because then you can, it's like using a map. Like, if you know where you are, you can be like, get where you want to go way more efficiently and effectively. I think that's what awareness is a map to like growing in life.
Especially when you're like super busy and say you're catching this good momentum, whether it's your business or whatever part of your life that you're trying to accomplish. A really good trick too is by like slowing it down while you're speeding at the same time.
Yeah.
And catching those moments. That's like very important. It's something I've noticed throughout the past few years. Something that I would not know though when I was first working at Buffalo Wild Wings. I was kind of more like everything's just like when a baby is born, everything's just like flash, right? Like they don't remember consuming anything. They don't know nothing. And it's the same thing even when I was 20 years old working at Buffalo Wild Wings. I was so new to the world and like being self-aware and like self-development and all this that once you become there's these stages, and over time when you start really catching yourself and being consciously and subconsciously aware, you're able to kind of like, even if you're having good moments, you can slow yourself down in your mind to catch certain things that are going on to actually progress even faster.
Very true.
I like that. I agree with that. I think that if I were to have closing remarks, it would be like kind of touching on that energy subject that we talked about a little bit. If your energy and we're all connected, then I think it's good to have self-awareness about how your personal energy is affecting the energy around you. I don't think it has to be your main cause of concern at all. I think if it's true self-awareness and you know what you want and you can listen to your intuition, then I think it's time to start tapping into like how you're making other people feel around you. And I think that's the next step of self-awareness. You don't have to cater to everybody. It's impossible to make everybody happy. And that's like a different self-awareness.
Other people's happiness aren't our own responsibilities, though.
Yeah, of course.
So that's
it's
really
not
cool.
But if I have like
self-awareness will teach you that you're not responsible for other people's actions or happiness or emotions.
But if I know if something that I can do can make someone happy and it's no sweat off my back, then like that's what I'm going to try and do.
Oh,
like that's what I'm personally working
Yeah.
on when it comes to self-awareness right now, because I feel like I'm in a good place as far as like knowing who I am and what I want. Now I feel like, oh, I used to be like a bitch. Like it was awful. Like there was no filter between what I was thinking and what came out of my mouth. There was like none. And I would say it bluntly and I would say it harshly, and I like looking back, I'm like, good, I got it out of my system. Like, sorry for anyone when I was a teenager if I made you feel bad about yourself. Sorry, Mom. like didn't mean it. But I mean, now if I can like take an extra step to like make somebody feel better or make somebody feel more comfortable or something like that, then I'll do it, because I know cohesively it'll make my life and my energy feel better in that space. So those are my closing remarks.
I agree. Yeah. That's good.
You're not going to have your own closing
Oh,
remarks?
I thought I did earlier. I thought I initiated
Oh, okay.
it.
Was
That's
that
what
it?
I thought it went around. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what
my closing remarks is
That was my
just
intuition
that,
as
yeah.
well, but I didn't want to be presumptuous.
in public,
Yeah.
semi-public. She doesn't want to assume things.
Oh my gosh. See, he's like throwing shade the whole day.
Just because today the events that
It's a shady
happened
kind of
around
day.
this
It is
conversation.
lots of cloud coverage today. Yeah.
No, but I think we're on the same page for the most part about what self-awareness means to us, and
Yeah.
how
I'm really
we-
stoked to see what it means to a lot of other people too. So we're gonna do some foreshadowing. I think before we release this episode, it'd be really cool to do like a question on our Instagram stories, like what does self-awareness mean to you, and then maybe like read them off, have a Instagram live, something like that, make it interactive, because I think it's important, and I think it's interesting that like the three of us even had different definitions of self-awareness, and I thought they were going to be a little bit more similar, even they were similar, but I thought they were going to be more. So it was interesting that we had like different perspectives on what self-awareness is, and I'd love to hear that. Foreshadowing.
for sure.
Yeah.
No,
I like that
I like
vibe.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's why we invited you here.
You invited me here. Get out of here.
But yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys as well. So if you didn't participate in Instagram foreshadowing, as Jackie referred to it as, and you're just hearing this now, we still, want to thank you for your time and listening all the way through.
Yes.
We know people are busy. We know people have a lack of attention span.
Your
We all
time
do.
is precious, precious, gemstones. to
So
us.
we appreciate your time, your
Rubies.
listening, and we'd love to know, what does self-awareness mean to you? What doesn't it mean to you? What are you working on, or what have you tried, or what events have led you to becoming aware of self-awareness and that whole journey of growth? And as always, we appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
We love you guys.
One
We're
more
here
shout
for you.
out to Joshua
Joshua P. Morse.
Yeah.
The DJM.
What?
What is
Dumb
that?
Josh Morse.
I was like, what?
I was hoping one of you guys
You
would
did
catch
get a
on.
new nickname though. That's pretty interesting.
Do what?
You got a new nickname.
I did?
Yeah.
What is
Dumber
that?
Josh.
Oh, yeah, that's
I
cool.
like that
Or
nickname.
Dumb and Dumber Josh.
Yeah, you guys could start your own podcast.
That is actually one of my favorite movies. Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah,
Ironically.
it is classic.
It's
Classic.
really good.
All right, we gotta go now.
But, yes, this has
You don't
been
wanna know my favorite website.
another episode on the Great Matters podcast. And we're going to go hang out with Josh a little bit more, and then we'll we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, see you guys later.
My name is Josh Perry,
And I'm Jackie Lauricella.
and this has been another episode of the Great Matters podcast. Thank you.